Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Adi, and today I have a team report from the Malmo Regional Championships, and I am joined by one of the most creative team builders in all of Europe. I am joined by Yvar. How are you doing?
Doing good. Uh, yeah, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to have you. I am so excited to hear about one of the coolest teams I've seen in my entire life. But first, can you tell me a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Evar. I'm Dutch. I'm actually 20 years old. Started CPC this year, and I started actually my first tournament was in Bochum, and after that I just went to more tournaments. Well, I enjoyed it a lot. So, and Malmo was like the first thing I got like real results, things like that. Always like created a little bit more creative teams. I feel like, but yeah, it works for it works for the first time.
Yeah,
Really good. So.
and you went 9-5 with one of the coolest teams featuring Squawkabilly, Dunsparce, and Tatsugiri without Dundozo. Super, super cool. And you had one of the craziest stream matches that I've seen as well. So, talk to me about how you put this team together, because this is not, these Pokemon are all so out there. How did you decide to settle on these combination of Pokemon?
Yeah. So like I'm pretty familiar with most of these Pokemon, but like series I've used actually some wild stuff. I like test a lot of different things. And for Series C or Regulation C, it was like a whole new map. It felt really different than Series C. So I tried some different things. I first tried some like more like tailwind, hyper offense themes, and I thought it was good, but I didn't feel like quite super comfortable with it. And then I came like back to like more a different style. And yeah, I actually at Bohan I used four of the same Pokemon that I have on this team. So it's a little bit but like different stats and things like that. But yeah, it feels kind of familiar with me and try to optimize it. And yeah, I came out with this. I can
Yeah.
yeah,
So, walk me through which four Pokemon did you have at Bokum?
at Bohan, like I can talk a little bit about the stats because they were like kind of crazy.
Hmm.
Pretty different. I had Squawkabilly, Annihilate, Klefki, Tatsugiri out of 15. And then I also had like a Mousehold and a Garganacl. That were the other two.
Hmm.
But the sets were like a little bit different. I had like a Tatsugiri on an air balloon, Terra Fairy, and I had Klefki with Magnet Prize because like the Doto set of that time only ran like Earthquake, Order Up, and Wave Crash. And if I click like Terra Fairy Tatsugiri and have Magnetize Clefty, I will be immune to all the all of its attacks. You can switch out and I can just win by timer. That
Hmm.
was the idea like that. But that tournament I faced like no dozos. But that's like a very different idea to the team at that point. But now I came to this more like with the Dudunsparce more focus. With the Serene Grace and the Rock Slide flinches and the Paralyzed Spamming. And I thought it was like pretty strong because there's not that much speed control on a lot of teams. So I can slow everything down, flinch it, get a lot of setup, and then get like the screens up, paralyzed rock slides, and then start like bolting up with the annihilate or get Ting-Lu in. And that one is like really bulky and can like slowly chip away at things and win the game that way. That's kind of the idea then.
Yeah. And so you have I heard, rumor has it, that you had a Shellos on this team at one point too. Is that true?
Yeah, so actually, the week before Malmo, I was playing in a local, and I was using, instead of Tatsugiri, I was using Shadows with Storm Drain. And that set was also like a little weird, because I ran Sandstorm on the Shadows. And yeah, why I did that is because like the first iteration of my team, I used it for like the global challenge, the second one, and I didn't have like a Shadows at that spot. I have Tyranitar.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like another rock slider, Dragon Dance Tyranitar, also like a really not so common set. But I used that, but I didn't feel like it was that great. And I felt like Storm Drain pairs well with like Annihilate because you can like easier use the Terra Fire for like Palafins. You can just wall the Palafin and your 8 just goes, yeah, can just sweep through something. So I was like, I'm gonna use Storm Rain. I use Shadows at that point because I was like, it's like really bulky. It's like the only it's water typing, so it's typing defensively is like really good, but it didn't do like much damage. It had like icy winds to like slow things down at least. It was like sandstorm, because
Hmm.
they are like ship like things, and to give me sort of weather control.
Yeah. Um, and so I guess switching to Tatsugiri, or I guess you had Tatsugiri on an earlier version, so makes a lot of sense. And then of course the Ting-Lu, was that something that you added pretty early on in the process in Regulation C, or was that a later addition as well?
Yeah, I think Ting-Lu is just really bulky, and on a team that like wants more like bulky things that can do damage as well. I feel like it fits kind of good, and it supports the team with like lowering the special attacks and combining that with like intimidate and departing shot. You lower like lots of physical attacks easy, but thing that is like the special attackers can keep it in check. It's really bulky that way.
Yeah, definitely. Pairs really well with Squawkabilly, I got to imagine.
Yeah,
And I guess so. On that note, let's talk about the Pokemon themselves. And I guess in this case, normally I like to talk about the EV spreads and stuff, but in this case, I want to hear about what the Pokemon actually do. And in particular, Squawkabilly is a Pokemon that have not really seen at all in VGC. It sounds like you are pretty familiar with it, but what is it? What is the role of Squawkabilly, and why does it have the moves and item that it does?
yeah. So pretty much, it's the only intimidate and parting shoulder in the game. Like the only other one that exists is like Incineroar that doesn't exist, but
Hmm.
also it plays like a lot differently. I feel like, but Squawkabilly is just intimidating its parting shot. I feel like some teams are like this, like regulation. A lot of Pokemon actually like tend to run more physical, I feel like. So the intimidate is actually pretty good, and like you're like super fast. It's like frail in the defenses and things like that. But it doesn't really matter because you just parting shot out and they're just gone. So that's like the main idea of Squawkabilly. Like mostly the intimidate plus parting shot, and then the rest is like it kind of fits. Like Final Gambit is just you can things like in earlier metas it was like something to one shot like Indeedee and Mouse Hold, things like that. But now they're like less relevant. But it still like works for like more frailer Pokemon. Like the lower HP ones. If you have like a Chiyu, you can just like get it away. Or like bulkier Pokemon, you can chip them and then get them away. Brave Bird is just for like a stab. You want a strong stab move. I feel like on most Pokemon. And then Tailwind is like the last move I added. I didn't know what other move I could use. And Tailwind can be good in some scenarios, in like an end game where yeah, like a 8 can sweep and just Tailwind and you just lock in the end game. That's I feel like I love Squad a bit actually.
Yeah, makes sense. And then I guess let's talk about the rest of the Pokemon and why they are trained the way they are.
Yeah. I can talk a little bit about the EVs because if you look at my EVs, you see that I don't really run offensive stats that many. I have
Mhm.
like 4 attack IVs on my Annihilate, and the other attack IVs are on the Squawkabilly. He uses like Final Gambit. The rest of my Pokemon actually don't have offensive things
That's
because
pretty
I
crazy.
wanted to, I wanted to run more like bulky on most things to like tank a lot of hits and like stack screens, live, disrupt with rock slide, and even if they get moved, they don't do much damage. That's the idea. Have a lot of time to set up, like be annoying to my opponent, and yeah, that's more the set. But we can like talk about like the Dudunsparce, for example. That one runs like pretty much outspeed because I want to outspeed things after they're paralyzed. And pretty much, like, I think I faced some Scarf Tusk, and like you can clear the Tusk, and then the Dunsparce like outspeed it, outside it.
Wow. Um, yeah, and glare is really cool because it's one of the very few ways to paralyze a ground type Pokemon, and that seems really important for your team. It's, like you said, Great Tusk paralyzing that is such a cool interaction. It's one of the very few Pokemon that can do that.
Yeah. Also, Ting-Lu it works really well for because that's also ground type, and also it's nice because it's 100% accurate instead of like the 90. It's,
And then yeah, you exclusively in bulk. I mean, Dudunsparce. Actually, I need to look up his stats. I don't even know what his stats look like. What is what is? Why did you choose to purely invest in bulk on this Pokemon?
yeah. The idea is mostly just for rock slides to flinch the opponents. So I wanted to stay alive as long as possible, and not like the damage doesn't really matter that much in my opinion.
Yeah, I was doing the math, and it's like a 60% chance, 65% chance to flinch at least one. Um,
Uh, no, it's pretty crazy actually. The math goes like if they're just rock sliders, like one rock slide is 60% on one Pokemon. If they're paralyzed, it becomes 70% if you do the math. So if they're both paralyzed and both rock slided, it's a 91% to at least flinch one,
wow,
and and it's a 49% chance to flinch both, para flinch both. It's pretty high.
that's that's insane. And what I really like, because we were looking at this team and trying to figure out, how does it work? I think that that pairs really well with the Annihilate, where Annihilate is really hard to KO, and one of the ways people deal with it is they double target it. And because if you single target it, you hit it once, it's just going to get the health back with Drain Punch, and it's just going to start doing more damage with Rage Fist. And so it's really cool to have this, or even if you only flinch one, if they only get one hit into the Annihilate, now you're boosting out your damage, and you're just in a better spot than you were earlier.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a lot of time to click bulk up and to just click attacks in your opponent. And because of the paralyze, you're gonna lose. You're gonna move before your opponent a lot of the time. So even if you KO them, that's like one Pokemon is gone. So it's like a 70% chance to flinch at that point. So as long as the Dudunsparce is alive, it just can very mess with my opponent.
Yeah, uh, it's a super cool concept, something that really hasn't been explored, but I think it's a really cool way of approaching using this Pokemon. Um, And I guess let's talk about the Tatsugiri, which is the other a little strange set because you've got Rapid Spin on this Pokemon, something that I think a lot of doubles players didn't even know it learns. So talk to me about why the Tatsugiri is trained the way it is.
Yeah, okay. So Rapid Spin, I've seen some theories about it that it's to like self hit my Annihilate if it Terras, and that's not the main point of Rapid Spin. The point of it was I was playing in the local and I faced Glim Dozer team with a Ting-Lu that had Stealth Rock. And Stealth Rock was really annoying for the Squawkabilly, actually, because you switch it in, you click parting shot, and you just lost 50 HP. So I kind of was like, I don't want to like auto lose to like Stealth Rock. So having a way to control that is like nice. And also like P-Spike, I don't like it. Toxic Debris, I can play around it, but it's pretty hard. So with Rapid Spin, it just gives me a little better matchup versus that. The main choice for it.
Yeah, that Glimdozo team definitely something that I could see being spooky for a team trying to set up their Annihilate, and so yeah, having it out to that definitely seems valuable. And then yeah, and like you said, Tatsugiri I guess looks like in a very important part of your Dendozo game plan already. So it just fits really nicely onto those against those comps.
Actually, I think Dozo is something that's pretty easy to deal with Squawkabilly. You can actually, I've had it multiple times, just made it to -6 attack and just bulk up with my 8 and then remove it later and just sweep afterwards. But that Stealth Rock, that like adds a thing that you cannot do that. That's the hard part.
And then you're also running You're running like full bulk with safety goggles and taunt on the Tatsugiri. Why'd you choose those sets and items?
The hardest counter for my team still is Among Us. If it gets a spore off, it, if it breaks through the pair of flinches and gets a spore off on the Dudunsparce, it's just like a lot of the team kind of falls apart. And if it gets a spore off on the 8, it's easy to target down, things like that. So Tatsugiri, having Tom makes it just an Among Us counter, and the safety goals let me switch in like a lot easier. I feel like I don't know if I could have used a better item or something. I don't think it matters that much, but the sound was like really important, and I just wanted to be a lot safer versus Among Us. So that's like the whole main idea for me. And then the bulk is just I'm like Tatsugiri is like especially it has some natural special bulk at least, but the physical is like pretty abysmal. So I was like I'm just gonna invest a lot in it so it can lift some hits.
Yeah, makes sense. Um, and then last but not least is the Ting-Lu. And it's a somewhat standard set, although I guess two things are a little different. First is that you've invested a lot in your defense stat, and that's not something that we very commonly see. Tell me about your Ting-Lu EV spread.
Yeah, so the defense stat is like I don't know. I just like it when it's just really defensive because most people like assume that like special moves are not gonna do that much versus Tingle because of the ability, and they see the assault set, they're like, oh, I have to deal with it physically. But with this kind of set, it also like takes nothing from physical attacks. I think it's like a roll, like a very low roll to hit KO with Ice Spinner from Shampoo, and that's before like Terra Water or and without the reflex, things like that. So I
Okay.
don't know. I like it.
Yeah.
The other there's like a little thing like sometimes like a heavy slam doesn't like Oko or Flutter main, and that can be like annoying. But if you have like chip on it and things like that, it goes down.
hmm Makes sense. And then the other interesting thing, of course, is that I guess it makes sense when you have no attack investment that Fissure is one of the is a really strong move, especially if you have chances to click it with Thunderwave and screens. But Ting-Lu has a lot of viable moves that it can run. Did you ever? Why did you run these four moves, and did you ever consider anything else on it?
Uh, I didn't consider something else. I think Fissure is like really strong on thing though. I think some people are saying that Fissure is bad, things like that. But if it hits, it's strong. If it misses, it's bad, of course. But it just having Fissure, has, your opponent has to play a certain way around it. You cannot let a thing do just click Fissure into your team because it's gonna hit one eventually, or maybe like three in a row. You don't know, and you have to play around it. And if I have like the rock slide flinches and the paras and the screens and all those things, I just have a lot of time to click Fissure. So I thought Fissure is pretty good, but yeah, the other moves are more for like reliability because you cannot get away with only Fissure. Sometimes Ruination is better in a faster match. You cannot, or on a flyer, you cannot hit that. Like a Dragonite, you cannot do it. Like Stomping Tantrum, Fissure, and Heavy Slam is not going to do that much. Like Ruination, you need that for that.
Mm-hmm.
And Heavy Slam is just pretty good for like Flutter Main. I think that's the main idea for that. And Stomping Tantrum, you can click after the Fissure. It gets like that boost. It's annoying if they have like Protect and they protect on the fish on the Stomping Tantrum boost. But yeah, you still get a bunch of Fissure a lot. So I like it.
Yeah, definitely. And so that I guess is a good recap of what the Pokemon do. Let's talk about how to actually use the team. So, of course, this is not a team that again anyone's really seen before. Talk to me about how you normally use the team, what your common modes were, and maybe how you approach some of the more common matchups you expected to face.
Yeah, so actually, I lead a lot of the same with this team. I lead the Dunsparce and Klefki in a lot of matchups. I can just get away with it. Like, immediately start paralyzing things, immediately start getting off my screens, and things like that. Like, a common lead sometimes you see like Fluttermane Q, and you might think it's like annoying for Klefki and the Dunsparce because they can just heat wave and like start immediately be offensive into you. And like if I get a light screen up, my Klefki at least lives like a heat wave. I know they have to like double up with a shadow ball. And actually, in a lot of game three scenarios when they like won because they doubled up, I didn't get like all the screens, all the turn waves. I just Terra water my Klefki, I lift the heat wave, I lift like a shadow ball. I get up on one screen, I get up a reflect. Like the first turn, I could have cleared. I start rock sliding. I start getting up the other screen to get in the ace, and it's just kind of over at that point. So like Flesky the Dunsparce is like my main lead, but I tried it actually on the stream game. I don't know if everyone's seen that, but in that matchup it actually didn't really work. So I had to like, adapt around that team a lot. I, so in that scenario, like you can see that the team can even work without like the Dudunsparce flinching through a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Annihilate is one of those Pokemon that saw a lot of play at the very start of Series Zero, a lot in Series One, and then has kind of fallen off. But with screens, it's always been such a huge threat, and even without the flinching, it's just able to power through teams with setup and screens and support with like Ting-Lu. So it's yeah, definitely a Pokemon that even without the flinching, although that is of course maybe the most fun aspect of the team.
And for me, yeah,
Certainly fun to watch, in my opinion. Um,
that's also true. Fun to watch as well.
but yeah, and then were there any matchups that you had to maybe deviate from that strategy other than the string match that you talked about?
So I had a lot of matches where I could just do this, but one match was actually pretty annoying. It was against Jamie Boyd's team. He had like a weird trick room team with like Screen Tail as his trick room setter. And most of the times with trick room, like most trick room setters don't have that much HP, so you can final gambit them. But with Screen Tail, you cannot really do that. So I approached that game and I don't really see anything what I could have done. I just tried to flinch. I actually flinched him like so much, but I still couldn't. I still got up the trick room at some point. I won one game in our set, but he won two at the end. So afterwards, I was thinking like, what could I have done? And I was thinking I should have just gone for rock slide and fissure into the screen tail and just hope. This was like my best play for Spectre because I didn't let it because his team was like really slow, so I didn't have to like paralyze or clear anything. I could just click rock slide and hope for the best. But at that point, I just kind of had to remove the screen tail. His screen tail also had like psychic tanks, so like screens. I couldn't set them really well. He just broke them. So it was a really annoying matchup. I felt like, but I yeah, with a lot of luck, you can muscle through it. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean that Scream Tail does seem just like the nightmare for your team with Trick Room and Psychic Fangs.
Yeah, because psychic tanks was really annoying, and I can't really like intimidate parting shots as well because the howl then he kind of just goes out of control. It's actually like I think that's very smart team because a lot of times to deal with trick room you just kind of protect on it each turn. But if you do this on this thing, they're just gonna howl and boost even more, and yeah, it's gonna go out of hand. And I have nothing to like get rid of the screen tail real fast, so that was kind of annoying.
Yeah, makes sense. And so I guess some of the other matchups that we really commonly expect to see at a tournament are probably Palance, Dondozo, and then like Chiyu bundle stuff, and Sun. I guess those are the big four teams in my opinion right now. How did you approach those matchups, or which ones did you have to deviate from your core game plan?
Balance, I think, is pretty doable for this team. I didn't face actually any balance, but balance like Among Us and Paladin already got like hard countered by my Tatsugiri. And because of that, my Annihilate can like pretty easily Terra Fire into that matchup, and it can get whiffed, but well, can get whiffed by like a Arcanine, and it resists Fluttermane at that point. So I don't really think balance was that hard to just lead off that screen. And yeah, I think that's just the Dunsparce Classy, Annihilate, and Tatsugiri just are good into that matchup. Then Sun was faced some Sun. It was like more called Lilligant. It was kind of annoying because Lilligant is really fast even after you paralyze it. And it has sleep powder, so if it like hits that, it's annoying. But other than that, like the Sun matchup is, I don't know how good I would think. Like Annihilate is just really bulky and can live through a lot. Ting-Lu can also do that, so I think that's doable. Get the screenshot, paralyze it. That's fine. Mm. Then like you actually some Steel match I have a lot of trouble with because Steel Among Us was actually pretty hard for me because they just rage powdered and nasty clawed and I was like, how do you deal with this? But I think I can do with it. I have to set like tailwind to outspeed that way and then rock slide it. Or maybe go in a more offensive way with like Ting-Lu.
Hmm.
But that's something I have some trouble with just setup and Among Us or Taunty Among Us. But yeah, overall, what? Mm, also, I faced some Snow teams. I think Snow is really easy with this team actually. I faced like a pretty standard team. I think it was like Vivillon, a Bomber Snow bundle, and then Sterilix kind of team. But yeah, that's you just paralyze it, and Rock Slide does a lot to actually everything. Even though I've not that much attack investment, most sightings on that team were just weak to it. So that does a lot of damage. But yeah, I think in the current meta, it's actually pretty good as a team. Match the matchups, yeah, it just plays its own game. I feel like
Hmm.
guys like that.
Absolutely, and it approaches it just plays on such a different axis than what a lot of the more common teams are trying to do, where a lot of them are trying to hit really hard with their attackers, with their Chi-Yu next to them or the Chen Pao next to the Dragonite or whatever, or they're trying to set up a Dendozo or set up Trick Room and trying to sweep that way. And this is just paralysis is not something that we've seen a lot of, and screens is not something that we've seen a lot of in this metagame. And so you really are just attacking the metagame in a way that teams might not be as prepared for.
Yeah, I think that's also something that's like a real different approach. I feel like I have.
Yeah. So again, super cool team, and that's a great explanation of how to play it. Do you want to talk me through some of the notable matchups that you played throughout your tournament run?
So I feel like a lot of the meta is like still like evolving, but also some stable things like Among Us and Fluttermane are considered to be like really good at the moment. So you can expect those a lot. And yeah, I played those also a lot. But to be honest, like the matchups, I think most of them are fine, yeah. But what did you actually mean with the question?
Yeah. Do you have a few matchups that you played over the course of the tournament? Do you have a few individual rounds that you want to talk about?
Uh, like some of the rounds, uh, I think I don't really. Some things I forget a
I
little bit.
I
I don't
understand, man.
remember
It's
that many matches. That's the hardest thing. I know like kind of what I played, but then like the specifics, I don't know. Like my thing is just I mostly just leave Classy in the Dunsparce and start rock sliding and paralyzing, setting screens. That's like
mhm.
the main ID. Like the most notable match for me, or like some things I like deviate are when like they start leading Among Us, then I like counter lead with like Tatsugiri, things like that.
Yeah.
That,
I
but
think um, the one match other than the stream match that I heard about was your round nine. You're winning in against Michael
oh
Dervesti because he's a
yeah.
friend of mine and he was telling me that he
Oh
played this crazy team and he got flinched out of the game. Do you remember? Do you want to talk about that matchup?
Yeah, I think I don't know if I remember correct. I think I went 2-0 versus him actually. But yeah, that was like the last round of Swiss. I was like pretty nervous for that because I was close to like getting day two and I was really hoping for it. So my heart was kind of racing there. And I actually, first of all, I didn't really know he was like Michael there best. So I like looked at like singles content and I saw his name into that. But before I entered the match, I didn't even know who he was actually. So that was fun. But he was playing also a different team. He was playing a Series 2 team with Roaring Moon, even, which you don't really see anymore that much.
Hmm.
And I think I did the Dunsparce Kleski, and uh, it was either Tatsugiri the first game or Squawkabilly. I don't even remember really well. But in that game, I just got pretty lucky. Yeah, I flinched him like crazy because I didn't even brought out the Annihilate and I beat his whole team. It was with just damage. Yeah, it was insane. And yeah, so I was more afraid of like the Among Us on his team, and he didn't even bring it like the second game or it was the first. I don't even remember if he had three games or two.
Hmm.
There's so many games and things like that. But he had like a Gyarados that was like a standard support kind of thing, taunts on the waves, protect, and waterfall. I thought, and I brought Tatsugiri the second game, and that one just walled his whole Gyarados. So in that game, I just killed everything around the Gyarados, and I remember the last turn, I was in a end game where I had Klefki and the Dunsparce out versus his like low Roaring Moon and Gyarados. Those were like his last two, and I had only Tatsugiri in the back. I sacked my Annihilate because I felt like I can win it without it. And in that position, I actually had kind of like a checkmate because his Roaring Moon couldn't protect because I had Hyper Drill under the Dunsparce. And I always just click Thunder Wave and Hyper Drill into the Roaring Moon and kill it, and then Gyarados can never beat Tatsugiri. So that was kind of like a cool end game, I feel like, where like Hyper Drill also made like a lot of, lot of fun.
Yeah,
But
actually,
yeah.
I gotta ask because I did not know what Hyperdrill did until I saw your team sheet and had to look it up. How many opponents do you think didn't know what that move did after they saw it on the team sheet?
Oh, I think not a lot, you know. Like I think some opponents just ask me what is a Squawkabilly. They straight up ask me that question. Like I don't know this Pokemon. So and I don't even know if everyone dares to ask that question. You know, maybe a lot don't even know things like that. Yeah, I don't. Hyper Drill, like I would have known it myself. So I'm just gonna assume that my opponent knows it as well. But yeah,
That's
sometimes they do. Like yeah, what?
it's I it's not a move that I had seen before. I maybe looked it up and said I got to evolve my Dunsparce, but didn't really think about how to use it. So um, it's really cool to see Squawkabilly play a Pokemon I don't think has ever seen BGC play. See a lot of success, and from the way you described it, has a lot of potential. The Dunsparce I think is again the highlight of the team for me. Just the way that you've used it to really enable Annihilate is really really powerful. Just a lot of really cool choices, a lot of unorthodox choices that came together in a really really incredible performance to go to make it top 32 at Malmo regionals. And so yeah, congratulations on your run. Um, and I definitely recommend that everyone tries this team out. We got the rental code on screen right now, and we've got the pace will be in the description down below. Did you have any concluding words or final words or shout outs that you want to give?
Yeah, I hope that the people at home don't have to face a mirror because I have no idea how to play that. Like imagine playing this on the ladder against the same team. Oh my god, what's gonna
Yeah,
happen?
just
Uh,
get your rock slide flinches, win your speed ties, hit your fissures.
yeah, exactly. Get the fissure immediately. But other than that, I don't really have that many shout outs or something like that. I don't use like Twitter that much. But yeah, I at least one thing I like I started playing Pokemon this like season at Bochum was my first tournament, and I think it's a lot of fun. Also, like the people you just play against, you talk with them, and you make like a lot of friends. I think that's also something that's something to shout out. The people, the community is pretty good. I feel like in Pokemon.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the reason that I keep playing. I think that's a lot of reason a lot of people keep playing is just the people are so great, and it's such a fantastic community. And part of why I like to do YouTube content is I get to meet awesome people on a regular basis who I'd never otherwise meet, and hear about all these super cool ideas. And so, yeah, I really appreciate you coming on the channel. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Of course. And so with that, thank you all for watching, and until next time, I will see you all later.